All right. Our agenda today is short and sweet. Basically, the reason for that, of course, is because Camtasia 2022 shipped today, this very day in history. And yeah, that's basically what we're going to do. I'm going to cover some of the new features in an overview fashion. Let's kind of get racked up here and get rolling on it because there's kind of a lot of stuff to do here. This isn't going to be supremely structured, but I am going to see if I can give you an introduction to Camtasia 2022. And by that I mean I've been working with the beta program for, almost a year now. So we will look at what new enhancements and features have been added to the product in an introductory overview way. We aren't going to be able to drill into any one or number of them in any detail tonight. This is to give you the broad strokes of what we can expect in future tutorials from me, future drill down topics, and that's going to kind of be the scoop for tonight. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, what's new? What's new? What's hip? What's happening? And before we do that, I am going to go to your handouts here. Let me drop the PDF for this in for you because I put together some links and resources for you. When you talk about what's new, the way the development team kind of goes about this actually is they rather categorize things when they're developing new products. So what are the feature sets that they're going to put into place? And I'll just touch on these real quick and then we'll go take a look at them, shall we? First are some home screen updates. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but that's kind of where you start. And there are new visual effects and transitions, cursor features and effects. There are some new canvas features and tools to help us work with assets on the canvas. Library assets and new templates. There's a new way to export our videos. It's kind of simple. There's some enhancements to the recorder, something called Audiate Round-tripping. I'll tell you what that is, and then a few miscellaneous kinds of things going on. Now I've kind of, except for the home screen updates here, I've kind of put these in the order that I find them to be most interesting and or useful. You can make up your own mind as we kind of learn some more things about all of these various features and functions. So first off is the home screen. Let's jump over to Camtasia and we'll take a look here. So this is Camtasia 2022. Now, first and foremost, of course, there are no huge updates to the user interface. But one of the things you'll notice when you first install the upgrade, and by the way, as always, I suggest that you do not uninstall previous versions of Camtasia. Don't do that. 2022 will run just fine alongside all your previous versions. If history is any indication, there might be a couple things in this new release version that will need a couple of patches or fixes coming up here. And it's always good to be able to jump back and forth. When you do install the new version, and the first thing you do when you open it up is you're going to see this screen here. They used to call it the welcome screen. Now they call it the home screen. And it's kind of nice. It's got some new features. It's got a nice new clean look. And one thing that's a little bit interesting here is you can now do several kinds of recordings from Camtasia, not just a screen recording, but if you click the little arrow here, yes, you can do your video recording of your screen. You can also check out Audiate, which is TechSmith's audio editing and integration tool. And if you have Snagit installed, you can also instigate a recording or import media via that particular content creation tool. And then just a couple of other things to show you if you're logged in or not. And you also now get what they call hero thumbnails for your recently used projects and things like that. And I think they show, like, I don't know, about 8 different recently used projects. here, and if we go to the Learn tab, this also has kind of a nice, neat new look. The tutorials are kind of nice. They're very well done. And you can also register for webinars, and they have kind of a cool thing called a 5-day challenge. And what we might do in our little group here is maybe we'll all kind of go through the challenge together, and I'll pick it apart and we'll maybe expand on it if people are wanting such a thing. Like I say, you can go through all this stuff at your leisure, resources, all that good stuff, get help. Like it. By the way, if you want to get to this screen, the feature that I was going to tell you is if you do Control H, it will bring up the home screen. Okay, so I already have my project open. If you ever want to get there to maybe get to the tutorials or news and stuff like that, just Control H and boom, there you go. Okay, so that is the home screen. Jim says, first thing you will be asked for your new license key, which you'll need to stop and get from Camtasia. Yeah, that's probably true, Jim. I'm not exactly sure how that worked because I was working with the beta builds and mine just installed. But yes, you will get an email when you upgrade. You will get an email, or if you upgraded last year, then you got 1 year of maintenance free from TechSmith. It's called their software maintenance program. And what that means is that software maintenance keeps you current with the version. Okay, so if you upgraded last year, you will get 2022 for free, right? And likewise, if you upgrade this year, so if you're running an earlier version, you upgrade and then you will get the next version for free, and then they will send you what's called your license key. And it's pretty straightforward. When you install the software, it'll say, do you want to do a trial or do you want to enter your license key? Okay, so Peter says he just had to sign in with his Camtasia email, and I believe that is correct, especially if you upgraded last year and you are due a maintenance upgrade. And in fact, I think if you even running 2021, I have heard, I have not tested this, that you could just check for updates and it will just kind of automatically do the whole deal. Right, so that's one thing to be possibly aware of. Okay, that's what Peter said he did. So yeah, and I do think that works. Haven't tested it, but if you have any problems, we'll just get with TechSmith support or post it in the Facebook group. Some of my favorite things, of course, are the visual effects and transitions. So next up in Camtasia 2022, we have visual effects and transitions. There are 30 new graphics processing unit accelerated transitions, which means they are geared to operate very efficiently. I'll kind of point you in the direction on those. Probably one of the biggest effects things that are going on is what's called the blend mode. I'll talk about that, and I'll show you that you can preview them, and there's some cool stuff we can do with it. There's also outline edges effect and a spotlight effect. So let's jump over to Camtasia and let's just kind of see about maybe checking some of those things out. First, on the transition side, there are some new transitions, 30 of them. Now, if you don't know which 30 are new, I believe in your handout, I put in, okay, I don't have it locally, but I put in some of my notes, and I kind of let you know that by category, these are the new transitions, and you can go play with those as you wish. But it's kind of good to know which ones are new, so you can look at new things. Now, a couple of my favorites I just have here. We aren't really going to get into this too much. You know how transitions work. But there's a couple of them here. What's this one called? This is Snapshot. So I'll let this roll. So it's kind of like a camera reticule, and it kind of wiggles and goes out of focus and then takes a snapshot and moves on to the next picture. Okay, I kind of like that. And then probably what is destined to be a favorite of all time, of course, is the Scooby-Doo transition, or let's see, Wayne's World, I guess, would be the other correlation there. Some nice ones though, and I'll let you go ahead and play with those, of course, as you're at your convenience. Now, you know me, I like to use transitions for all different kinds of effects. So, for these 30 new ones, I will be going through and we'll see about adding them to perform animations. Like I say, is something that I like to do, right? So, check them out. They're kind of fun. Let's talk about blend modes. Now, blend modes are essentially just ways to blend one object that is on top of another. How do the two interact? How do they blend together? Okay, and I'll show you examples of that. The thing is, these are not new at all. In fact, they're used all over the place in almost every other video editing software on the planet, or at least every other high-end one. Premiere, After Effects. And they kind of come from the Photoshop world. So the blend modes that are in Camtasia 2022 are actually the same ones that are in Photoshop. Okay. Plus, there are 4 additional matting modes from After Effects. Okay, well, I like me some After Effects effects, so that's going to be kind of good. And essentially, a blend mode uses math to look at the pixels and colors and we'll just call it data of one object, the top object, okay, called the blend layer, and then the object underneath it looks at all that data, and it does some really kind of ugly math on it, and it puts together a different or a composited version of something. Now, one thing you can think of is opacity, which we're all very familiar with, right, is in essence a blend mode, isn't it? Because all we're really doing is changing the value of pixels from the original to something else. Okay, and like I say, they use math to blend pixels between layers, and that's really all it entails. Let's jump over and I'll show you a couple of examples of this. Let's see here. Okay, I think blend modes are one of these things that we are going to get into heavily in future things because they are just freaking awesome when it comes to creating anything as far as effects goes. There's just so many things we can do here. So here's an example. This is my bottom layer, okay, and on top of this I have dropped a video file, right? Now this is just like a little effect. It's an MP4 file, and I like it, right? I kind of like the line. Oh, I like the lines drawn there, and then that could make a nice little call-out looking thing. It's just a stupid video clip that I found on Pixels or Pixabay. I don't even know where, right? So here's the thing. I used to, if we wanted to do some kind of overlay, we might try to bring the opacity down, but you notice what happens to my background layer if I do that is it gets real dark. So instead of being nice and clear, yeah, I can kind of fake it out by changing the opacity, lowering the opacity on this, but it just doesn't look that good in most cases. Now, I could maybe add a visual effect like, I don't know, let's add us a media matte. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, we'll just add us a luminosity effect. I like your thinking, a luminosity invert. But one of the things with that is that now it's black instead of the original color. All right. Well, what we can do now though is let's right click. Let's go to Visual Effect, or we can go to the Visual Effects here, and we have Blend Mode. Let's drop a blend mode on here. And like I say, there are a bunch of different modes. By default, and I'll even say predominantly, the one that you're going to use most of the time is called Screen. And we aren't going to get into all these this time. We'll dive deep later. But notice what happened here is that it really just is blending the elements from the top one minus the black, and now I have something that, oh, okay, well, that's kind of cool, and now I can use it. I can now use easily and cleanly and effectively the hundreds of thousands of video assets and stuff that we can get. Let me see here. Let's give one more quick example. It doesn't have to be like video that you can blend with. You can blend images, graphics, pretty much any visual element that you want. Here, this actually is a library asset. In fact, let's move this off for a second. Here's one of the new library assets. It's called a lotus of some type, and it's just an animated thingy, right? But it has a blend mode. So let's put this on top. Okay, and what we'll see is just this really kind of nice, beautiful thing going on as far as an effect. And this is essentially just a different blend mode. This is called color dodge. And you can hover over each of these and you will actually get a bit of a preview. There's a lot of them, so what you'll want to do is, kind of be aware. Some darken, some lighten, some take the difference in colors, and some do some pretty funky and weird things, right? Color dodge for this one kind of is an interesting effect, right? I like it. One of the other things that's kind of new here, I'm going to touch on this just while I'm here, but you press and hold the control key and then grab this asset here and move it. What you do is you get a duplicate, just like we do in PowerPoint, right? So press hold control, drag, duplicate. And also, one other way to duplicate something now is to click on it on the timeline. Actually, let's click on this one, and Control D will also duplicate by adding a layer on top. You get some pretty fun and interesting types of things. And again, this is just combining a library asset. One of the things that is also kind of nice about this is, so here I have two images. These could be video clips. This is just a landscape scene, right? And then this is some clouds. So what I can do is I can put the blend mode on top. I'm going to add just the overlay blend mode to it. Okay. And now let's put it like this. I've essentially swapped out the sky because those are blue colors in there. There's blue colors in here, and we're just overlaying those particular colors, right? So that's kind of fun. Okay, so those are blend modes. I'm not going to get into those too much. Let's see, what else do we have? There's a couple more visual effects that we'll touch on. Spotlight effect and outline edges are two more effects that we will find if we go to our visual effects. You can find now outline edges. This, I don't know. I don't really have a use for it. Let's just apply it to something on the timeline here. Here let's turn it off. So here is just a screenshot, and I put this outline edges. So I don't know, maybe you can get kind of a black and white thing. You can play with the intensity, but to me that's just ugly and useless for the most part. If you do it on something like let's put an image in there. I don't know, we'll add some flowers. So, not a real complex image. And let's add us what is that? Outline edges. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's kind of like their color adjustment layer. It's just too radical and uneditable to be useful. I mean, if they made it more like PowerPoint, where you could actually, determine how much you get. Natalia says outline edges look like it can make a drawing effect. No? Well, no. Maybe. If you consider that to be, a good drawing effect. And yeah, I guess maybe to a degree, but it's probably not something I'm going to use very much. So that's going to be the scoop on that. Probably of much more interest to me is the one called the Spotlight. And let's take a look at this guy. Let's do it from scratch here. Let's go to Visual Effects. Let's go to Spotlight. Let's drop that guy on there. And what you'll see here that we get is this kind of configuration, conbuberation here. And all we really have to do is kind of look at, first and foremost, the little handles and controls here. So I got me a little dot right here, and as you can see, this is going to move the focus of where the light hits. This is the light source. Maybe it's the other way around. This is where the light hits. This is the light source, where it's coming from. Okay, so you can get all kinds of cool effects there. You can change the opacity and get it really bold. You can blow out the brightness and all the, let's see, let's reset those two. And focus. So tight focus, narrow focus, wide focus, all that good stuff. And of course you can change the colors, if you like, of your light. Okay, now that's all well and groovy and kind of fun and stuff, and yeah, we might be able to use that sometimes. And of course, the interesting thing is that you can animate it, right? So if we, I don't know, let's drop a keyframe here. Let's back this up a bit. Okay, so that's going to be my end state. Let's go back here to the beginning, and let's set us, something else up here. Maybe change the color and something like that. And essentially it will animate the properties with an animation for your spotlights. Okay. Can you change it to have a darken effect instead of light effect? Let's see. I don't think you can. That would kind of be like a reverse or an invert effect, right? I haven't tried that or seen that, but I guess you could maybe fake it out depending upon how you apply it or animate it, right? So I mean, I could. Let's see. Let's see if it works. You can. It doesn't have to be on the thing, so it could be start off the screen and then you can bring it. So I think there's a way to maybe hack what you want to do there, Natalia, right? Okay, let's press hours here. We got a lot to do. Okay, what's next? Let's see here. Oh, okay, cursor stuff. All right, let's talk about some cursor stuff. And I'll just say that I think this is like a pet project of the product manager, Brooks Andrus. He talks about this a lot. And he's asked us for a lot of feedback in the beta group and given us some vaporware, mock-ups to look at and stuff. But essentially, this is kind of what it ends up with. And the whole purpose of this really is to be able to enhance the viewability and professionalism of your screen captures, right? So anything that has to do with a cursor is essentially just a lot more control and a lot more effects for the cursor. So you can now edit the cursor path. You can add a cursor path to an image, video, or group, which means that cursors are not just for screen captures videos anymore. You can add cursors and then animate their path to anything. And also the cursors in Camtasia now, the system cursors for Windows will automatically be replaced with vector graphics by Camtasia. So if you've ever tried to make your cursor, and I use the big red cursor thing here, if you've ever tried to make that big in Camtasia, yeah, you can make it bigger, but it pixelates, right? Because it's just like a bitmap or something. Well, the ones inside of Camtasia are vectors now. They're replaced with vectors automatically. So you can, by default, scale them up to 225%. You can take the slider up to 2000%, and you can actually override the slider and say, I want a cursor that's 10,000% as big. And you can set your default preferences in the preferences screen. So let's go take a look at it. Just a couple things on cursors. Okay, we'll touch on this just a little bit. There's a lot to go over on this, so this is going to be like the subject of a whole nother session. But just so you're aware, a couple of the things you can do here. Here I have a screen recording, right? And if I scrub through here, I got a cursor that we're all familiar with that is captured and moves, right? Okay, that's all well and good. If we click on the cursor properties now, you see that we got a bunch of new options. First of all, the first is that it is scaled by default to 225%. So it's going to be a little bigger than by default than that little itty bitty microscopic cursor, especially if you record your screen at high res, right? Okay, so you can make this bigger if you want. See what happens when you normally scale this up? I use this one specifically because to show what that looks like. But in your normal Camtasia 2022 recorder files, this is not a 2022 recorder file, but in those, it will scale up the cursor just beautifully, and it is a vector graphic. You can't mess with it, quality-wise. But how many times have you done a recording, and your mouse is moving around and you don't get to where you want to be, or your mouse is covering up something you want to show? Yeah, it happens all the time, and yes, we can turn off the cursor with a opacity animation, but now you can actually have it map out the cursor movement. So if I click continue here, these are the movements that I've made with my cursor here. And you can move them if you want. You can change the type so you can make them square, or you can use Bezier curves, for a more natural looking movement kind of thing. And you'll notice down here that now I have all these keyframes. Basically, let's zoom in just a little bit. These are all automatically generated, so I can, move where I want to move and do what I want to do. You can add points if you want. I think add cursor points. And again, so say I missed this. I wanted to go up here, and show this. And you can also change the cursor speed at which the cursor moves just by, moving these keyframes accordingly, right? Or you can delete stuff. I didn't mean to move the cursor there, so you can just delete it. And I didn't want to do that either. Delete that. And it really just gives kind of a nice amount of control in addition to, the other cursor effects that we kind of had in previous versions. Let's see what else. Okay, so that's for existing screen capture recording. One of the things that it might be kind of nice and rather handy, especially for, kind of quick video work, is you now under visual effects can also, let's see, where is that guy? You can add a cursor path effect. Okay, and now this will be a scalable cursor again, only this isn't a recording, this is just a still image, right? So I can say, okay, well, I want to start off kind of up here. Or let's see, start off maybe up here. Grab this. Let's start off up here. And I'll probably change the curve on this. There we go. Let's start there. Boom. And then let's bring this guy down to here, right? Just as a really simple example. So here, it's just going to, oops, I did that in reverse, but you get the idea. And again, the same thing is true where you can change how fast it moves, and then you can just kind of continue and add as many points as you want. You can change the easing, ease in, ease out, ease nothing. Let's see, and I'll let you kind of play with a bunch of the rest of these. But yeah, some of the other things they're looking at doing is being able to change the color of the cursor. And I think there's going to be like a few new maintenance updates to this. Like I say, I think it's one of the product manager's pet projects, so we'll see about that. So cursors are pretty cool. I think we'll like those. Canvas enhancements, all right? These are going to be somewhat controversial, I think, right? So first of all, they're cross-platform. They're going to be the same on the Mac as on Windows. These are called Align Assist Guides. Okay, so get ready for some changes. Adjust the anchor point of any media. I like that one. Anchor point snapping. And anchor point adjustments are stored when you add an asset to the library. Let's take a look at what all that jargon means. So let's go up here. I'm just going to grab a piece of media here. We'll put it here. Okay. So, as we all know, this is our canvas up in this area here. Right now, as we know, when we go to put an asset on the canvas, here I just, drug it from my library and plopped it on there. When you do that, we're probably all familiar with things called canvas snapping, right? Now, with this, you can see the lines, the yellow lines. This indicates that, as I hold it and try to move it, well, it's snapped to the top. Okay. If I grab a handle here and move it, okay, now I'm snapped to the bottom. So we're kind of familiar with that. One thing that you will not see that is kind of irritating to me is the center line. Okay, in previous versions, you got a horizontal line and you got a vertical line that was dead center with whatever respect to your aspect ratio was. Notice as I move here, I don't get that. Okay, to get to the center, what you do is you'll see if you look here, right at the anchor point, as I move this, well, you got to move it this way, okay, and then it's going to snap. If I grab this and kind of move it down, I can get to the middle. Now, it does a bunch of math on a lot of this. So here, you can see that, yes, I still get the indications on the left side there that now I am distributed equally amongst the black area of the canvas, right? Because I got the two little X's. Okay, but this is going to take some people a little bit of getting used to, and it's just new. I haven't quite decided. I think overall it's going to be better, and it's going to be better probably. Let's try this. It's probably going to be better with additional assets. Okay, so now let's use our control duplicate trick. And see, you're going to get a lot of feedback and a lot of information as to what is lined up to what, right? And how is it lined up. Oh, okay, well now I'm lined up to the center of the right-hand object, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to belabor this too much. Just be aware that you're going to kind of be wanting to play with some stuff, and just kind of getting used to it, right? Okay, let's take a look at one that I think is going to be pretty interesting and cool. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Let's move this guy out, get it alone on the timeline. And let's just make a line here, so to speak, okay, or a bar of some type. All right, so as you probably know, this little dot in the center here is what's called the anchor point. And what that means is that if I grab the rotation handle here, and this is true in previous versions, if I grab this and rotate it, well, what happens is it rotates around the anchor point, doesn't it? Well, in previous versions, you could not change that. You had to create a group and resize the group. There was a way to change the anchor point, but it was kind of ugly. With this version, if I press and hold the control key, notice how my anchor point changes to a four-sided arrow, right? Now, I can move the anchor point to, like, say, the edge. And now, when I rotate it, watch what happens. It goes along the new anchor point. And this is going to make possible a lot of pretty cool and interesting effects, I think, especially when we start to animate these and whatnot. And also, let me see here. Let's try this. It doesn't even actually have to be inside the object itself. So now I can set the anchor point kind of wherever I want. Okay, and see how it's, whatever it is, it's just going to move according to that anchor. And like I say, you might think, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to use that. Trust me, we are going to find some cool ways to use this. The nice thing is that it also, let's do this. Let's Control D to duplicate this. Let's group these up. You know what? Let's change one. Let's move this, I don't know, just down a little bit. Let's group them. Control G. And we also have an anchor point for the group. So it will work the same way. And when I move the anchor, I forgot to hold control. When I move the anchor point, okay, let's just put it on the end here. It's going to set the anchor point for the group. Nice. I like it. It's going to have some fun with that one. That is nice and will make life easier on animation, says Natalia. Yes, it will. Let's take a look at some library assets. And we aren't going to take a look at too many of these. Library assets, you want? Okay, well, we got some. 1,173 new assets to be exact. That's to your liking. And there are also 5 new custom project templates going on. They come in these various flavors. There are 14 new audios and hundreds of callouts. Blah, 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 all this good stuff. Your best bet here is just to kind of go look at stuff. So let's do that real quick. We're not going to belabor this at the moment. If you go to your library, what you'll find is that it actually saved my libraries, imported them from the previous version. Plus, one thing they didn't used to do that is kind of nice, they actually kept the 2021 default library. Okay, so you didn't have to save it out and import it. But here you're going to find a, what's the technical term? Oh yeah, a buttload of new stuff to look at and play with. Lots of emphasis effects, cursor packs, just all kind of fun new stuff. And let me see here, bursts and collapses. Let's just take a look here. For example, these are things we like to use. I like to use. I've gotten collections of them, but now TechSmith is kind of adding some of them in. And I'm just going to grab, like, I don't know, 2 kind of interesting ones here. We're going to cover these in a whole bunch of detail. Here's one that I kind of like. This is called Typing Away Search, and it's in the library somewhere. I wonder if I can do this. There we go. Typing Away Search. And if I click on it, we'll see that, of course, all the library assets are configured and created with quick properties. So here, you can put whatever you want. Enter a search term here. This group rocks boom. And of course it just does it. Does all this stuff. Does the typing. I like that one. That's a good one. Here's some of the titles in the library here. Where am I? If anything, there's so many that I'm thinking of culling them down a bit. Titles. There's lots of good titles here. Here's one of my favorites. I like this guy. It's kind of a cube rotating thing. And I suspect that's something that we can do with the, remember, anchor points, right? Mirror title sequence. I don't remember what that is. Oh, yeah. So this is a really nice title sequence. Let's click on it. Oh, it's all right here. Just change your quick properties and you're good to go. There's things like counters, all kinds of stuff that we're going to have big time doggy fun with coming up pretty soon, right? There's some YouTube channel assets, templates. There's some new templates. Let's see, so let's go to File. New from template. So, yeah, some okay ones. I really kind of like this one and this one. The rest are, I don't know. TechSmith doesn't do a real good job of giving us a lot of templates because, well, they sell them. So we'll work on making our own. Thank you very much. A lot of the library assets are Lottie files, JSON files, right? So we've been talking about those. And then features that I don't really care too much about. There's, of course, a new recorder version, and just the notes here, it will have support for virtual cameras. So these are kind of coming out more and more. I will do a separate session on them, but now we can get some virtual cameras as the recorder input for video. Capture cards, camera capture cards. The captures get additional recording metadata, like some of those cursor aspects and so on. And they are also, just to be aware, removed the legacy recorder, which, if you remember from last time, was kind of an interim step because they didn't have the 2021 recorder finished when they shipped it. I don't know. So other than that, it's just a new recorder with pretty much the same kinds of features, but I think it's missing a couple. We'll look at it a little more in depth later, but the recorder is still something they're going to be kind of rolling out and updating in minor releases. A couple miscellaneous features, repeat media. Let's see, do we have time to cover that? You know what? I think I'll save this one for next time. It's just kind of a little time saver thing. Spell check for text callouts. Yay, we have spell check now. I'm still working on a little bug report, but again, I'll paste as plain text is a option. Let's go to annotations. Let's add us a text callout. Oh, let's do this. Spell check. You'll see it kind of works there. But if I click off of it, okay, it still works. But if I click off the call out and then go back, it's gone. So that's a bug that I reported. I think it's still a bug. But also now, I think if we right click here, okay, we get, the standard stuff. You can paste this plain text. I'll do a separate thing on that because I think we're running short on time here. There's a new exporter. It's just kind of simplified. And the reason they're putting in is they have deprecated the Windows Production Wizard. I'm not quite sure of the logic and rationale for this necessarily, other than they're trying to make it more Mac-like, I think. The wizard is, helped a lot of people produce videos, and we'll take a look at it. It's a new modern Windows export experience. You can do single-click exports and all that good stuff. Let's take a look real quick. If you go to export, you're going to find a couple different things here now. One, you still can use the production wizard. It's called the legacy, but apparently they are going to be deprecating this. And as far as I can tell, if you want to use the Smart Player, you still have to use the production wizard. Okay, so this is what Smart Player, we all know how to use that, right? But here, if we go to export local file, okay, yeah. You see, let's look at that error because it's kind of important. It says that my project here contains table of contents or markers, right? Well, you can't use this particular exporter. You have to use the legacy. Okay, well, I'll just say okay. And really all it does is it just gives, what do you want to call it? Where do you want to save it? What do you want to save it as? Right? And then there's just a couple of advanced settings for dimensions, encoding. And you can't set these as preferences that I can tell. So 60% here. Well, yeah, that's like, okay. I mean, that's usually acceptable unless you're doing like, quality video. I'd probably take that up to like 70, 75. But you can't set it as a preference, so you got to do this every time. And then audio. You'll notice the options here are a lot less. So I don't know. I think they're still working on this, to tell you the truth, kind of a thing. So, and Susan extols my exact opinion that anytime you can use the word deprecate, you should, because it's just that cool. All right, let's wrap this up because I think I'm losing my voice here. In the realm of I personally don't care, has to do with Audiate. Audiate is TechSmith's audio program platform thingy. And what they've added is what they call an Audiate Round-trip. So if you use this expensive service, I don't have it, so I haven't tested it. All it does is provide the ability to connect Camtasia directly to Audiate. So you can send audio from Camtasia to Audiate. You can audiate and edit and do all the stuff that Audiate, I guess, does, and then send it back to Camtasia, and it automatically transcribes text, and it would automatically sync objects on the timeline to match the edits that you make in Audiate. So if you're an Audiate person, there you go. You'll love it. It's awesome. And then finally, in your handout, I put some resources here. This is kind of what's up with the upgrade. You can get the upgrade here. Let's see, I'll put that in the chat box for you. And then here, if you want to know specifically the features that we've talked about tonight and what's new, if you go to the Windows version history, again, these are all in your handout. Windows version history, it'll tell you all the stuff. You can compare versions to kind of see, what you might want to do. Okay? And then here are the tutorials that are specific to what's new. This is kind of like an overview thing. And we'll be diving into more and more of these as we go along. So, anybody have any burning questions? Okay, well, I hope that was useful. And we'll be doing a lot more on this thing. That's for sure. All right, folks. With that, I'm going to let you go. And I will see you all next time.